The atmosphere around Celtic right now feels heavy but charged at the same time, and that tension is impossible to ignore when you look at everything unfolding ahead of the next match. There is football to be played, points to be fought for, and momentum to be protected, yet so much of the conversation continues to circle around what has been said off the pitch and how it connects to what happens on it. That balance between preparation for the game and the wider issues surrounding the club is dominating the mood, and it sets the tone for everything that follows as Celtic move into another demanding stretch of the season. Martin O'Neill's recent comments have added an extra layer to that discussion. He has been clear in expressing satisfaction with the current squad, suggesting that he feels comfortable with the group he has at his disposal right now. There was no deep dive into late transfer business or dramatic revelations, but there was a sense of calm confidence in how he spoke about the players already in the building. That alone is interesting, because it signals trust, and trust is something that can either lift a team or become a point of friction depending on results. When a manager says he is happy, the expectation is that performances will reflect that belief, especially in matches where pressure is already high. One of the names that naturally drew attention was Joel Avuka, not because of medical updates or timelines, but because of the way O'Neill chose to frame him as a person first and a footballer second. He spoke warmly about Avuka's character, describing him as someone whose personality could be just as valuable as his ability on the pitch. That matters in a dressing room that has been through ups and downs, because energy and attitude can shape the environment just as much as tactics. Avuka has already been described as upbeat and positive, and those types of players often bring something intangible that supporters do not always see, but players feel every single day. There was also clarity around a move that did not happen, with O'Neill confirming that an agreement had been reached with the Italian club Frosinone for Ferris Gimas, only for the player to decide against the switch. He chose to stay where he was, believing that his current club could push for promotion. From Celtic's perspective, it is frustrating to line everything up and still walk away empty-handed, especially when it involves a player from a lower division abroad. It highlights how different the transfer landscape feels compared to years gone by, and it underlines why contingency plans like Avuka become so important when primary targets slip away. Another significant point came with the revelation that bids from Nottingham Forest for Ari Engels were rejected before they even reached the manager. The board made the call early, removing the situation from becoming a prolonged saga. What stands out here is not just the rejection itself, but the reaction from Engels, or rather the lack of drama. According to O'Neill, the player accepted the decision, stayed focused, and did not allow disappointment to disrupt his attitude. That is encouraging, because unresolved transfer interest can easily affect performances, and Celtic have already seen how that scenario can play out with other players in the past. Looking ahead, it feels realistic to say that Engels' future remains uncertain beyond the current campaign. There is a sense that interest could return, especially if clubs south of the border strengthen their position and look to fill gaps in midfield. Celtic may face a decision in the summer, balancing the financial side of a potential sale with the footballing challenge of replacing someone who still has more to offer. That uncertainty hangs quietly in the background, even as the focus stays on immediate fixtures. The conversation becomes even more intriguing when Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain enters the picture. O'Neill has openly admitted that he likes the player and has spoken with him directly, which immediately separates this from the kind of loose speculation supporters are used to dismissing. Oxlade-Chamberlain's career speaks for itself, with top-level experience, international caps, and time spent at elite clubs during his peak years. His situation now, training without a club after leaving Turkey, raises questions about fitness, readiness, and motivation, but also about opportunity. Injuries have undeniably shaped his recent seasons, and that history cannot be ignored. However, the fact that he has continued training at Arsenal shows a commitment to staying sharp and connected to a high-performance environment. His desire to be closer to family and to settle back into football without uprooting his life again adds context to why he has not rushed into the first offer available. For Celtic, that creates both hope and hesitation. Hope because a player of his caliber could add experience and quality to midfield. Hesitation because availability and long-term reliability always matter. From a purely footballing perspective, the need for something extra in midfield between now and the end of the season is a valid talking point. The squad has depth, But there are moments when control, composure, or creativity can dip, particularly in tight matches. A player who has operated at the highest level understands game management in ways that younger players are still learning. Whether that potential outweighs the risk is the question Celtic must answer internally, but the interest itself shows ambition to address areas that could define the season. Away from transfers and tactics, the bigger storm is brewing among the supporters. Discussions around boycotts, demonstrations, and ongoing protests reflect a fan base that feels unheard and increasingly frustrated with how the club is being run. The idea of withholding presence or disrupting match days is deeply divisive, and that division is already visible in reactions across the support. On one hand, there is anger and a sense of powerlessness, the feeling that drastic measures are the only way to force change. On the other, there is concern about how those actions might affect the team during a critical period. This internal conflict cuts to the heart of what it means to support a football club. Loyalty to the badge often clashes with dissatisfaction toward those in charge, and finding the line between protest and support is never simple. The timing only intensifies the debate, with crucial fixtures looming and the title race finely balanced. Every point matters, every performance matters, and the idea of creating a hostile or subdued atmosphere at home sits uneasily with the desire to see the team succeed on the pitch. As Celtic prepare for the upcoming match, squad availability becomes a practical focus again. Training footage suggested a strong turnout, with several players back involved and new faces integrating into sessions. That visual alone offers reassurance that options are available, even if not everyone is ready to start. The likelihood is that some of the recent additions will be eased in gradually, potentially making their first impacts from the bench rather than from the opening whistle, allowing them to adapt to the pace and demands of the Scottish game. Selection decisions will be scrutinized closely, especially in midfield and wide areas, where form and fitness fluctuate. Players returning from fatigue or minor knocks must be managed carefully, and rotation may become necessary as fixtures pile up. Every choice carries weight, not just for the 90 minutes ahead, but for the broader narrative of momentum, belief, and unity that Celtic desperately need to maintain as the season pushes forward. As matchday edges closer, the conversation inevitably turns back to what happens under the floodlights and how the wider context feeds into the performance on the pitch. Celtic find themselves in a situation where results do not exist in isolation anymore, because every kick of the ball feels connected to the mood in the stands and the noise surrounding the club. The players will be aware of that, even if they try to shut it out, and the challenge is always the same in moments like this, finding clarity amid distraction and turning pressure into purpose. The recent results elsewhere in the league have only sharpened that sense of opportunity and risk. When rivals drop points, it creates a window that demands a response, and Celtic have been here often enough to know how quickly those chances can disappear. Away fixtures, especially at grounds where the atmosphere is tight and the margins are small, require a level of concentration that leaves no room for complacency. It is not about style or statements in these games, but about control, patience, and the ability to deal with uncomfortable spells without losing shape or belief. Team selection will play a huge role in setting that tone. The spine of the side is likely to be built around players who understand what these moments mean, not just tactically but emotionally. Experience matters when a match threatens to drift or when the crowd senses vulnerability. That is where leadership on the pitch becomes just as important as instructions from the technical area. The expectation is that Celtic will look to dominate possession, but dominance alone is never enough if it is not matched by sharp decision-making in the final third. Wide areas could be decisive, particularly if energy levels are managed properly. Fatigue has been a factor for certain players recently, and that can influence how aggressively the team presses and how quickly they transition from defense to attack. There is a fine line between intensity and overexertion, and managing that balance across 90 minutes is one of the quiet challenges the staff face. Fresh legs off the bench may be needed, not as a reaction to problems, but as part of a planned approach to keep the tempo high when spaces begin to open. Up front, the responsibility to convert pressure into goals remains a constant theme. Chances will come, but patience is required to wait for the right ones. In matches like this, frustration can creep in if an early breakthrough does not arrive, and that is often when mistakes happen. Celtic have shown in the past that they can grind through those moments, trusting that persistence will be rewarded, but it demands discipline and composure from the first minute to the last. Defensively, organization and communication will be tested, particularly against a side that looks to exploit transitions and set pieces. Concentration at dead ball situations is non-negotiable because one lapse can undo long periods of good work. The back line must stay connected to the midfield, closing spaces quickly and avoiding the kind of gaps that invite pressure. Clean sheets are built on small decisions made consistently well, and those details often define outcomes in tight league contests. Beyond the tactical elements, there is the psychological weight of what is at stake in the wider campaign. A title race that remains finely balanced brings its own strain, especially when expectations are high and tolerance for error is low. Players are human, and they feel that tension, but the strongest teams find a way to channel it into focus rather than fear. That is where routine, preparation, and trust in the process become essential, allowing individuals to fall back on habits rather than overthinking moments. The backdrop of supporter unrest complicates that picture even further. Players will hear the discussions, see the headlines, and sense the unease, even if they are shielded from the worst of it. For some, that can be unsettling, while for others it becomes a rallying point, a reason to fight harder and deliver performances that reconnect everyone through shared success. Football has a strange way of cutting through conflict when results arrive, even if deeper issues remain unresolved. In that sense, every match now feels like more than just another fixture. It becomes a test of unity, resilience, and identity, asking whether the team can rise above uncertainty and keep moving forward. The margins are thin, the schedule is demanding, and the spotlight is unforgiving. But these are the moments that define seasons and shape memories. Celtic have been here before, navigating turbulence while chasing silverware, and the challenge is to draw on that history without being weighed down by it. As the whistle approaches, preparation gives way to instinct, and all the talk fades into the background. What remains is a group of players tasked with executing a game plan, supporting each other, and taking responsibility when moments arrive. In a season filled with noise, clarity on the pitch becomes the most powerful response, and the next 90 minutes offer another chance to show that focus, commitment, and belief can still cut through everything else swirling around the club. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers have been circulating through the corridors of European football that Daisen Mietta, the nimble Japanese winger currently plying his trade at Celtic, might be on the brink of a shock move to the Bundesliga. According to sources who wish to remain unnamed, Mietta has allegedly accepted an offer from a top German club, sparking feverish speculation among fans and pundits alike. The rumors claim the deal has been tabled in earnest, with terms reportedly agreeable to both the player and the prospective club. Yet, in a twist worthy of the more dramatic pages of transfer lore, it seems Celtic manager NEILL has gone to extraordinary lengths to keep the forward in Glasgow. Eyewitnesses suggest the coach physically intervened during preliminary talks, a move that has left the Scottish side's dressing room buzzing with tension and intrigue. Mietta, who has dazzled supporters with his blistering pace and deft footwork on the left flank, has long been considered one of Celtic's most promising talents since joining the squad. His ability to glide past defenders and provide both goals and assists has made him a fan favorite, yet the lure of Germany's top-flight football is difficult to ignore. Bundesliga clubs are renowned for snapping up skillful, quick-footed wingers, and insiders say that Mietta ticks every box on their scouting reports. The speculation has only intensified after reports emerged that the Japanese forward himself is intrigued by the prospect of testing himself in a new environment, embracing the challenge of a league famed for its pace and physicality. The Scottish press has been quick to catch wind of the potential transfer saga, with debates raging over whether Celtic could genuinely stand in the way of a move that could define Mietta's career. Some commentators suggest that O'Neill's dramatic intervention signals just how crucial the winger is to Celtic's ambitions, while others hint that such theatrics may merely be an opening gambit in what could become a drawn-out tug-of-war. Meanwhile, supporters of the club have taken to social media to voice their opinions. Some thrilled at the thought of Mietta earning a bigger stage. Others anxious at the notion of losing a player who has brought flair and creativity to the Scottish Premiership. For now, nothing is confirmed. No official announcements have been made, and both Celtic and the German side remain tight-lipped. But if the rumors hold any weight, football fans from Glasgow to Berlin may soon witness a dramatic twist in Mietta's career, one that could see him swap the green of Celtic Park for the bright lights of the Bundesliga. Until then, the story continues to simmer, feeding speculation and hope alike, as whispers of Mietta's potential escape dominate the conversation in Scottish football circles. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.